Welcome to the Daily Debrief, where we take a look at today's big story. I'm Jordan Gartner with the KTMV Digital team, and we are speaking to reporter Sean Delancey. Sean is covering an assembly bill that is up for debate in Carson City on possibly banning the death penalty in Nevada. Sean, thank you for joining us. And how did you first hear about this topic up in Carson City?
I've been following the legislature since square one, actually since before the session actually began, this one that happens every 2 years. And they have this bill tracker called Nellis on the legislature's website to provide for transparency. You can see every single bill and what they go through. So I've been tracking this death penalty bill since the beginning of the session, and things got very interesting when Democrats in the assembly passed the bill out of the full assembly on party lines, 26-16. And that's really significant because a bill like this has been proposed multiple times in the past, but it's never gotten out of committee to a full floor for a vote. So might be the first time that this actually has a chance of becoming law. And that's when I decided it was time to jump on it and get the story done.
And who did you speak to during the week and also, of course, this morning?
Yeah, a couple of people. It all starts with going through and watching the discussions from the committee hearings that they have on all of these bills to see how it's developing, some of the arguments for and against it, to make sure that we've got the facts down. And then we end up talking with people who could be affected by this. So you can see handwritten, this is the transcription of my interviews here. The first person that I talked with was Janine Hansen with Nevada Families for Freedom. She is against banning the death penalty here in Nevada, saying essentially that there are some severe cases in the state where the death penalty should be used, that we don't want very heinous criminals running through the streets and chances of them getting back out. The other person that I spoke with here is Tyler Perry. He's an associate professor over at UNLV of African and African Diaspora Studies. And he essentially argued that in an imperfect justice system, one that often is skewed against minority populations, there's no way to have an error rate when it comes to the death penalty, because you could be killing an innocent person, and in an imperfect system, that can't be allowed.
And did you find more support or more pushback? I know you mentioned your interviews, kind of overall feel, or are you kind of getting a more for or against?
Well, we always try and find balance when actually presenting the story, but in researching it, they have exhibits on Nellis where people from the public just get to submit their thoughts on the bill, and it's attached to the bill page. And there was a lot more support for the bill and repealing the death penalty than there was arguments against it, but there was a lot on both sides. So this has definitely been a really heated issue.
And and where are we at now, I guess? When should we know a decision? What would be kind of the next steps?
Well, this is where it really gets interesting, because again, it's never made it this far in the legislative session before, but it's got a couple of hurdles to go through. We don't know exactly when we should be hearing something. The first thing that we need to know is that the legislative session ends at the end of this month. So if they don't get it passed, that will be the deadline. It dies at that point. The Senate is where it is sitting right now. It hasn't had a hearing just yet. If the Senate does end up passing it, which it could potentially happen, then it would go to Governor Sisolak's desk. And the interesting thing there is that Governor Sisolak has said publicly that he's not sure if he'll actually sign this bill, saying that in certain severe cases, there are situations where it could warrant the death penalty. So even if a Democrat legislature passes it to a Democrat governor, it could still fail in the end. And that's something that we don't know at this point.
All right. Well, thank you again, Sean, for joining us. And for more on today's big story, visit ktmv.com. Now, stay with us for more local news right here on KTMV Streaming, Las Vegas News on your time.